So far away, Lucas. What's a game you feel like you could play blindfolded?
Maybe like Breath of the Wild.
I'll pay to see that. Just stumbling ass backwards through Hyrule, like, no. Chess is oft called the sport of kings, and throughout history, exceptional chess playing ability as a skill has been envied and respected in equal measures. While the overall playing strength of chess grandmasters certainly trended upwards over the centuries, people back in the day were certainly capable of some fairly impressive feats of mental prowess when it came to chess, such as playing mind chess from horseback. Mind chess. Mind chess.
Has the horses got anything to do with it?
And we can get to that in a moment, Lucas, but first I have to mention that today's video is sponsored, and today's sponsor actually is like one that's kind of wholesome for me, because it's a sponsor who's already reached out before, and that is the guys who made the graphic novel Grey Cells. You can see a picture of that behind me now. And they initially reached out to me like a year ago now, because this was a Kickstarter they were trying to get off the ground. And they sent me an email a couple of weeks ago. Like, oh yeah, that Kickstarter, it went through, it got released. We now want to advertise the full release. And I'm like, that's awesome. That was like, I legitimately like welled up a little bit when I read that. I'm like, well, we helped these guys, like, you know, realize like their creative vision and helped make it a reality. And they're like, yeah, we want to reach out again and just advertise the release of the whole thing, which we'll do at the end of this video, but just, yeah, thanks guys. So what do you know about chess for a start?
I mean, I know roughly how to play chess. It's not as if I know any strategies or anything, but I know the basics of chess.
Which I feel is true of near enough everybody, and one of my least favourite tropes in media is like, we're going to show a character is smart by having them play chess. It's like, every fucker can play chess. Like, not to like, you know, a grandmaster's level, but it's not as complicated a game as Hollywood seems to think it is. There's like 6 pieces that move in very specific ways.
No, Carl. Only the most intellectual people in the world can play chess.
And I would argue that there are more individual interactions that can occur between the different characters in Smash Bros. Than exist on a chessboard.
Well, let's think about it, right? So we've got over 80 fighters in terms of that, in compared to what, like, as you say, about like 7 pieces in chess that are unique.
We got a king, a queen, the rook, the bishop, the horsey, the pawns.
And so every single, I like that you called it the horsey, not the rook.
It's the knight. Someone will correct you on that.
Every fighter has like, what, 16 individual moves?
Yep.
Maybe more. And then, as well, there's an almost infinite amount of spaces they can be moved to. Yep. On the, you know, screen. Not on a
chessboard, it's 60. And that's the thing of like, I get it. Like, chess is historically considered to be like, you know, one of those things like, you know, it's a great feat of intellect. Like, you know, it's like a battle of just like mind, not body when you're on a chessboard. But there are video games that are more technically complex than chess is now. And I don't get why chess, of all things, keep getting held up as like, you know, it's this ultimate feat of mental prowess to be like, you know, a master of chess. When there are things that exist that require more skill and dexterity. So like fucking Starcraft, for example. Like professional Starcraft players do something stupid like 200 inputs on their like keyboard and mouse like every 20 seconds.
And as well, just to bear in mind that they have to do it all in real time.
And I get it, like, you know, chess has that prestige about it, but I would just love to see like a chess master just pick up Smash Bros or something. And the comparison is not as facetious as like, people may think I'm making it out to be, because like, within Smash Bros there is like, you know, the same argument and struggle that exists with chess players of like computers mastering things in the game that players simply cannot. Level 9 CPU in Smash Bros is capable of like absolutely unbelievable feats that seem completely alien to an average player. So I think me and you were playing the game once. I was trying to beat a level 9 CPU, and a level 9 CPU fucking faked me out and dunked me. There's a great article about the game Go, where they programmed a AI to play Go, just fed in millions and millions and millions of games of Go, and then they asked a professional player to review what it did, and they went, it looks like an alien's playing. It feels like an alien is playing Go. I do not understand what it's doing. And you know that with chess as well, where like computer playing chess programs is like have just for decades now kicked the living fuck out of professional players, and that's one of the reasons why you don't really have professional players playing against computers anymore, because they know they'll get beaten and it'll ruin their reputation, as they do with like Garry Kasparov back in the day. So you're familiar with the game of chess, yes?
Yeah.
What about the idea of blindfold chess? What do you know about the idea of blindfold chess? It's pretty
other than it's chess where you're blindfolded, not much, I'm not going to lie.
Okay, so the idea of blindfold chess has existed for nearly as long as people have been playing chess competitively. And it was throughout history seen as a way for people to just flex their skills at the game on weaker opponents or for the purpose of exhibition. For example, unofficial Fact Fiend mascot Paul Morphy is known to have done this a lot. And we did a video on Paul Morphy, but it's before your time on the channel. So would you like me to remind you of who he is?
I do not know who they are.
So he was a chess prodigy who very, very famously decided to quit chess at just 22 years of age because, to quote him, there was no one left to challenge.
Oh, wow.
So he is widely considered to have been one of the most just naturally gifted chess players in all of history. And it is a constant source of argument amongst like chess players and authors and theorists that he may very well have been one of the greatest chess players in history, but because he plays so few games, we'll never know how good he could have gotten, because he quit at 22. And for many years after he quit chess, he was constantly bombarded by people who also play chess, asking him to return to the world of chess or challenge him to a game. And Paul Morphy didn't like that. So what he'd do is he'd normally say no, but if they pissed him off, he would flex on them by playing with his back turned to the board. So he'd go to the board, settle the pieces, turn his back to it, and then call out his moves, beat them that way, then leave. And my favourite is that he'd sometimes go to chess halls, drink a cup of tea as everyone there's like, is he going to play? Is he going to play? And then he'd stand up and leave. And you might think, folks, that sounds like a dick move. I should remind you that Paul Morphy tried to become a lawyer, and he had to shut down his law practice because literally every single person who came in wanted to talk about chess. But the pertinent piece of information there is that Paul Morphy was capable of playing chess without even looking at the board. And it requires just such intricate knowledge of the game that is often seen as like, a flex. It's something only someone who has absolute mastery and knowledge of the game could even hope to do, because you are basically required to keep a copy of the game in your head through the entirety of play. And there are examples of people playing multiple games of blindfold chess against other players, as an even greater flex.
So do the other players call out the moves or anything?
Yeah, the other players will sometimes you have blindfold chess versus blindfold chess, which is where mind chess comes in, but blindfold chess is normally done in exhibitions now, and it is just the person who's blindfolded or their back turned to the ball will call out their move, and then their opponent will call out their counter move.
Yeah, because that's what I was wondering is how does a game of chess get played if you can't see where the other opponent is? If I
that would be impressive. That'd be impressive.
But then, if they were blindfolded and I didn't even tell them what moves I was making, how are they ever going to play chess? That
would be impressive. Well, you have to call out your moves to them, and they just have to, in their mind, keep the board in their head, which doesn't sound that difficult until you start realizing, how many different possible combinations of things can exist on a chessboard. All at once, yes, while also in your, play, this thing about chess is that you play 5 moves ahead, isn't it? And that's one of the reasons why, for many years, chess-playing computers simply could not do the calculations necessary to play chess at the level of a grandmaster. Because whenever you say that, people say, well, if you've got to play 5 moves ahead and you've got a computer, surely the computer can just calculate that in a split second. It's well, no, because professional chess players and grandmasters, they do play 5 or 6 moves ahead, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on the situation. But because they have knowledge of the game, they'll know what the optimal moves are. So they'll play a few moves ahead based on what they know about the game. Whereas a chess-playing computer without that knowledge has to account for every conceivable move that could possibly happen. And with a chessboard, that is millions and millions of moves ahead. Because, every different permutation of things that could happen has to be calculated to calculate the correct optimal move for the next.
They'd have to, do a Doctor Strange and figure out the one way that they can win. Tell me about mind chess rather than computer chess.
Well, mind chess is a curiosity observed throughout history, being partaken in by grandmasters of chess when they don't happen to have a chessboard in front of them. And it would most often be done to pass time in a situation where having an actual chessboard in front of you wasn't feasible. For example, on horseback. And there are multiple accounts throughout history of people observing just people on horseback calling out chess moves to one another, playing a game of chess in their mind against one another as they rode to their destination. And that to me is that is just what?
My first thought is that I'd turn around and just be like, oh, well, I moved to this square and take this piece. It's like, oh, no, but my piece wasn't there. It's like, yeah, it was.
Well,
you've misremembered.
And that's the thing, the fact that that didn't happen, that they had such knowledge of the game and trust in one another's skills as players that they could do that. And there are stories of it happening in early Asia and the early Arab world, of just like these men in immaculate turbans on horseback, just calling out chess moves from the like horseback or like, you know, from their carriage or whatever to the one next to them, and playing just a game of chess in their own minds against one another.
It's literally taking it to another level.
And that's conceivably something you could do with any game that doesn't involve chance. Like any board game that does not require like a dice or something like that could be played in that manner.
Well, you could play it with dice as well. I'll just call out my dice roll.
To get the optimal dice. You won't believe it, double sixes again.
Yeah, it is stupidly impressive if they could actually play a proper game of chess like that.
Yeah, and they just, in their heads, they just sit there and talk. And it just, to me, it reminds me like, that's how Magneto and Professor X should have played chess. Like, 'cause Joe, when they're sat there in the fucking thing, they're playing chess, physically moving the pieces. Like, no, Charles Xavier should be moving it with his, like, telekinesis, and Magneto should be moving it with his magnekinesis.
No, remember that Charles doesn't have telekinesis.
He does in the comics.
I don't think he does.
He does in the comics. Lucas, we did a wiki weekend on him. He has he's not as strong as Jean Grey's, but he has telekinesis.
I thought he's only a telepath and not a telekinetic.
Lucas, comic, mate, power scaling. We'll just start thinking about, mentally parrying each other's chess moves like the fucking X-Men or some shit. For yourself, and for the people at home, wondering, like, who is today's sponsor? Well, that's Grey Cells, a graphic novel. And I have their thing in front of me, and I don't often do ad reads, but I'm going to extend that courtesy to the guys from Grey Cells, because, as mentioned, they reached out to a channel before, and I feel like, a kinship with them as fellow creators who were just, like, trying to make their mark on the world. And the fact they reached back out to us to advertise the graphic novel now it's finished, it just really warmed my heart. So, I'm going to read their ad copy right here. So, folks, you'll never see me do this for anybody else. So we have here, Grey Cells, a supernatural thriller, true detective, crossed with Stephen King. Solid. And I should point out, I was supposed to have a copy of it in front of me right now, but due to it being the Jubilee, like, mega bank holiday, the post didn't arrive.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So there is a copy of the graphic novel itself winging its way towards my office right now that I can't get my hands on because the post hasn't arrived. So when it does, there'll be pictures of me holding it behind me on the screen, alongside the artwork from itself, because the artwork is fucking incredible. And I just remember when they sent me the initial thing of like, oh yeah, just here's some artwork from it. I was like, why? Why are people this talented forced to, like, struggle? Like, someone this talented should not have to, like, be like, hey, support me, because I know you should be fucking famous already. Like, she's awesome.
Yeah, I remember watching the video last time they sponsored us for the Kickstarter and just being like, oh my god, that looks really cool. Finding
success, it's all down to luck, and we just happen to get lucky with Fact Fee videos, and I'm happy and privileged to be able to help other artists achieve their success too, which is what Grey Cells managed to do, because their initial Kickstarter was a success. And now they're able to, and they've released the thing fully now, and you can find it. We have it here, Comixology, Drive Through Comics, etc. But if you want to be a big dick baller, you can buy it from their website directly, which is inkeddreams.com/latest books. And if you use the code FACTFIEND10, you get a 10% discount. And I would recommend doing that if you were at all interested in seeing what Grey Cells is, because I'd imagine that those numbers are a bit easier to track, and I will be very intrigued to know whether or not this plug was successful for them. We want our sponsorships to be worthwhile for both parties. Speaking of which, the guys over at Ink Dreams only reached out to us for a single sponsorship spot, but we're giving them an extra one as a bonus, just to say thank you for reaching out to us again to do this, because we are really flattered that they do so, and that is going to be in a video about Morbius. So we're going to do 2 Morbius videos.
Because you know what, Carl? It's Morbin time.
And all of us at the channel hope that this sponsorship is similarly successful. And the one thing I want to point out as well, the actual story itself, so I've got the blurb in front of me here, I'm not going to try to spoil it. Yeah, it's like, a kid's gone missing. And there's just this guy, and he's got a fucked up face. That's how I'm going to describe it, because, the artwork they initially sent me, is just like, yeah, here's this dude. And Joe, I describe it as like Junji Ito-esque. Stark black and white imagery. It's like this horribly fucked up monster, man. I'm like, where is this going? One of the things that they're actually sending us through is a poster for The Office, which again, we can't have in front of us because Royal Mail not working on the Queen's birthday, apparently. I'm hoping that my enthusiasm here comes across because it really is. Like, the fact as well, like, the stuff they asked me to say is like, they just sent like this brief blurb of like, you know, it's like 6 to 10 lines of just like, yeah, this is what we want you to say, that we trust you. And just that as well, like the fact, you know, you did good last time, we trust you to say it. And it's like, again, that feels really good. That, you know, like we've spent so long trying to establish like a tone and it was like really strict things in place, like how we handle sponsorship, and that this sponsor is like perfectly happy to agree with that. And it's like, yeah, we trust you, you did well last time, let's work together again. Fucking sick.